Well, hello everybody. This video, explosive, huge, gotta be shared out to everybody. And believe it or not, folks, it's not even the most breaking, unbelievable news of the day that I can't share with any of you. But we're going to go through this video. I'm going to give it that minute to let people log on. I want to hit it. I've had a number of messages I've been catching up with all weekend, including today. We're at the finish line of our Phase 1 residential school genocide, leading up to Children's Day of Genocide and Armed Conflict, coming June 28th, 2022. We went across Canada to all the chiefs with reported findings of children's bodies, and it's huge. It's way bigger than the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and I'm fortunate I got to put a year of my life in with the ICC, International Criminal Court, to get through that education from the former prosecutor of that court, all former justices who hosted that education session. I completed that works already over a year ago now, and I come prepared, ready to go. We've uncovered so much more than anyone could have ever anticipated. In fact, today was a gold mine of unbelievable release of information that even people who hold it right now in Canada, it's one of a kind. That chief and those people don't even really know what they're sitting on. But fortunately for me and a small group of us, a couple world academics, and even one Canadian law firm knows exactly what that is, or is going to learn very shortly. But that's not what this video is about, even though this video is going to tie into that coming in the next month, folks. But I want to talk about Chief Justice Wagner, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada, highest court in Canada, which are all being led to believe as somehow an unconstitutional act of Stephen Harper in 2011 is the reason why Chief Justice Wagner overturned multiple back-to-back murder sentences, meaning just like the States, if you kill more than one person, mass murder as it's called, you can stack sentence upon sentence upon sentence until there are no more years of your life left to live. You will live them behind bars. How does the international community run compared to Canada? How does the world of international law compare to Canada? Well, I can tell you, the UNSCP 5 all practice the death penalty in international law. Absolutely all and every single one of them. Why doesn't Canada have a death penalty or consecutive served life sentences for multiple crimes, heinous crimes such as murder, child rape, and murder? Why does Canada not have that? It's not because of 2011, regardless of what the Supreme Court and the news likes to tell you. It goes beyond that, long before that. In fact, Canadians, you had the death penalty, meaning there was no serve multiple life sentences, because if you committed the most heinous crimes and you did it in a serial fashion or in a mass fashion, meaning you didn't just kill one person, you continued on and on and on, and each one of those was a separate crime. Folks, before 1976, July 14th, those crimes got you a death penalty in Canada. And even some, if they were stacked on even just one victim. Example, I can tell you from my family's history in our hometown, Stettler, Alberta. There was a man in the late 50s, in my mom's time as a child, in her childhood. There was a man who grabbed a little girl, raped and murdered her in traumatic fashion. He got hung by the neck until he be dead, dead, dead. Alberta administration of the death penalty, which would be the last death penalty seen administered in Canada. Why was that abolished? Why was that abolished? Folks, in 1960, the law of decolonization, the most atrocious mass murder in all of Canadian history, occurring at the exact same year and time frame, 1960 through to 1976 and beyond, was the crime of residential child murder. Not only murder, rape and murder, and then go hide the bodies at crime scenes all over Canada, from one end of Canada to the other. In fact, it was done by the government. Armed RCMP went into reserves, went to people's homes with their children, and seized them by gunpoint. There are stories of RCMP in police vans running over children, running down fathers, assaulting mothers, and even taking them out back and raping them. That's a fact. That is Canada's history. This didn't just occur back before World War II. It continued long after World War II. And in fact, it went through most of our living lifetimes. In fact, if you're over the age of 30, it happened in those narratives in your lifetime, right here in Canada. Not just once or twice, thousands upon thousands of times. It's not Canada's first time participating in anything like that. Was it the worst for the First Peoples? Absolutely. Folks, that all changed in 1960. Not because of the government of Canada, not because of provincial governments or anything to do with the Crown, but because of world powers from World War II. The allies of World War II got together, at least Russia did, the former USSR, and said, we're going to end all colonialism, and most of the world agrees with us. And guess what most of the world voted for in majority? Absolutely decolonize the world, end those worst crimes of the worst crimes, which the crime and punishment of children's genocide, especially in armed conflict, became numero uno worst crime in the world. You want to see the death penalty? That'll get you the death penalty. Not only everyday Joe Janes all over the world, but absolutely all government elected or self-appointed or rogue regime governments right across the world. That was done, bound into law. There's been many cases of many politicians going to jail, life sentences in the Hague until they're released back to the country of crime where they're put to death. It's happened many times. What changed, folks, and why in 1976 the government of Canada moved quickly to abolish the death penalty is because all of the living politicians, federal and provincial, who voted in laws against the First Peoples and other groups of Canadians in other ethnicities, other religions, other mental faculties, or physical restrictions, had gone through it. Many politicians would be put to that judgment. Canada wanted nothing to do with it. Why 1976? 1 year after Richard Nixon's absolute transformation of the United States, for the American Indian, ending all forms of any of it forevermore for the American Indian. 1975. Canada always moved as fast as they could to cut off any idea that any way, shape, or form any true justice could ever be met to any Canadian politician. From 1976, abolishing the death penalty so that not one of them would ever be put to any real justice for any of the most heinous mass murder, genocide crimes that they're all guilty of committing, both provincially, every registered political party, and absolutely every federal political registered party from that time till today, right now, as I even give this video. In fact, we have a Premier, John Horgan, who is a living testament to this crime occurring right now as I give you this video. He's doing it in unceded territories of BC. He says legal. The world says a guy like John Horgan would be put to death. And if you don't believe me, the ICC rolls out case after case. There's one right now of another black African John Horgan doing the same thing, or had done the exact same thing. But John Horgan's white, he's part of the Commonwealth, and he's not to be put down because Canada's laws protect all the politicians and absolutely take all the rights and freedoms from all Canadians, and absolutely the savage, filthy Indian, as you are legally written in the Constitution of 1867, forevermore bounded in 1876 under the Indian Act, which is alive and well today, folks. Administered, kept alive, keeps going forever and a day, and won't stop. Just like Adolf Hitler and the 1933 Enabling Act. Just like South Africa's apartheid and all the laws that they had in place that were removed and ripped away, started in 1984 and finalized in 1993. What happened in 1984? The world allies got wind of what South Africa was, finished their investigation, and started the lengthy process with NGOs, which is what we're going to try and replicate at the end of June 28th, 2022, right here, Children's Day of Genocide and Armed Conflict, created and put forward by NGOs, the UN elders, the elders of the UN, Nelson Mandela, all designed, crafted around South Africa. 1985, Canada transformed forever its criminal code to try and stop the idea of decolonization and true justice to ever be met for any of these greasy, seedy, genocidal maniac politicians. They crafted, under Brian Mulroney, Conservative, a completely new, off of Trudeau's charter, they crafted a new criminal code, making a slap on the wrist to grab Indian children, rape them between the ages of 4 to 11, and bash their heads in and murder them and bury them in sometimes crime scenes 3 schools back in history. And then they just demo schools so that no one's ever going to know, supposedly. But it doesn't work like that. There is no way out of this for Canada. They did that in 1985, transformed the criminal code, saying all of those heinous crimes are not really a big deal. Not really a big deal. But if you topple a statue, anything to do with colonialism, meaning you're practicing decolonization, you can get 10 years in jail. But you can take a little Indian girl or boy, 4 to 11 years old, rape them or try to force them to have oral sex on you, and if they don't comply and you bash their heads in, it's okay. Just throw their body in a shallow grave, throw some dirt on it, leave it for another time period to deal with. That's okay. That's just not a good idea. That's a slap on the wrist. This is Canada. The stories get worse. It goes way beyond the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It's way worse than that. There's so much not disclosed. Your filthy, corrupt media doesn't tell you. There's so much, so many chiefs right across Canada can't even get the funds or the resources to get the job done. Literally have no support, none whatsoever. And then your greasy, seedy, filthy politicians who participated and orchestrated all this and voted for it. Every party, just like South Africa, just like the investigation from the UNSCP5, just them alone and their reports over 9 years showed that every single political party in South Africa was all corrupted and all for the genocides, which are clearly in their history, even into the most heinous of heinous crimes against your fellow human beings. And even the people of South Africa didn't see a problem with it. It was so institutionalized normal. It was okay. It's normal. It's normal to cut the testicles off a man after hanging him in a tree. It's normal. He drank out of your fountain. It's normal. It's normal to cut off sex organs and stick them in their mouth until they bleed out. That's normal. Normal church-going folks thought that was normal. See the problem here, Canada? People are crying in their soup. I watch alt-right, radical news media taking their spin off it. Poor Harper's Law. Harper was just as guilty as the rest of them. Mass sentences back to back. How about the constitutional right of the death penalty forever and a day, just like so many other countries with real justice? Why do you keep people around who've killed more than one person, who've got a sick fetish on it, or rape and murder multiple children? You're going to rehabilitate that person. You're going to say that the human rights of those children or those victims are pale in comparison to somebody of a psychotic nutcase mind that you believe you're going to rehabilitate, who has a fancy for murdering in the mass capacity or raping and murdering children in mass capacity. They're too far gone. They're not to be a part of society. They're not. Anyone who thinks like that, you're probably an institutionalized Canadian. You probably love your Conservative, Liberal, and NDP parties. You're probably the kind of institutionalized person that was just like South Africa again, where you think it's normal for mass child rapist murderers strangling little girls and throwing them in ditches over and over again, that person should be in the community again at some point. Good behavior, they could be out in 8-10 years. Look at Karla Homolka. It was normal, even though the video of her laughing as she's helping strangle, well, Paul Bernardo's raping and then murdering these girls, and it was all funny. The videos come out after, but it's okay, have children. Hey, she's rehabilitated. Don't worry about it. Think of all those victims. Don't worry about it. Think of those fathers, because I know as a father what I would do if some sick son of a bitch ever went at any of my daughters, or what I would become if that ever fell upon any of my children. I'm pretty sure everybody at home could relate to that. There is no justice for any psycho from the right shooting up mosques, or a nutcase from the left going out to kill all the capitalists, or go into a church, kill all the children. No justification for this mental degradation, none whatsoever. And who are you really protecting? It's the politicians, the most guilty of the guilty, with the longest running genocide in the world today unanswered. Everyone goes, We have records beyond the Truth and Reconciliation Commission now that shoots a lot of holes in everything that's being narrated out there. And then there's all the background in real international law that experts look at and they draw red flags. I was fortunate to be a part of this. Things are meant to be as hard as it is, as hard as it's going to be going forward. It's going to get harder yet, as this first phase, which has been a big reward and a lot of answers, it's the idea that there's still over 100 and some to go, and it only gets harder as more and more can't find justice, can't find supports, have no ability to do the investigations. It's so important this goes out on the international stage. I hope people share this video, learn the truth, what is really constitutional, what's been removed, and what's being lied to you right now in media. Because I promise you folks, of course there were not back-to-back consecutive mass murder sentences constitutionally, because the answer is, constitutionally, you got put to death in this country all the way up to 1976, July 14th. Go look yourself. Now, if we're going to talk about unconstitutionality, then I guess we better bring back the death penalty, because it's unconstitutional not to have the death penalty if you can't lock a sick fuck away for the rest of their life until they be dead. Why do they come back to society? Who in their right mind would want that? Corrupt politicians, guilty of mass genocide, legislating mass genocide, employing organizations to commit mass genocide, child rape, child murder, and then covering it up. That's who makes laws and gets chief justices to write bullshit Supreme Court of Canada ruling saying unconstitutional. Because I argue, as it was before 1976, and only changed by an act of legislation, a bill passed by Parliament, meaning it's an unconstitutional bill. It means the death penalty must be brought back in light of nobody's to serve back-to-back sentences when you commit the most heinous crimes over and over and over again, or you've done it to more than one victim. Either way, if we're not going to have back-to-back sentences, you bring back the constitutionality of the death penalty. Think about it, folks. Share, get the truth out, know the truth, know the corruption of your country. It's important. Canada's one of the worst. Who are they protecting? Oh, corrupt justices of King's Court and corrupt politicians who mass genocided a peoples, specifically little children, sexually and then murdered. Think about that. Crimes of inhumane torture, year after year, decade after decade, again and again. Long after Westminster, we blew that out of the water. There are records now. Westminster, 1931. You can throw that away for all those claiming that the myth is the rest of it. We've got the real church records now. At least one is better than none, because it's never been released worldwide. And there's more coming out, more beyond anything this lunatic and radical governments, left or right, center or off center, whatever they want to call themselves, You're all built just like South Africa because it's Canada 1. The first one. Canada, Manchester. Go look at it. It's real. It's sick. It's depraved. And we, the people, have to change it. Because King's Court doesn't work in 2022. Radical politicians with divine powers of delusional grandeur doesn't work. Doesn't work for anybody. And now we're saying mass murderers can get out in as little as 8 years. Good behavior. How many more victims? What kind of system allows that to go? The kind of system who has politicians guilty of all those same crimes and don't want to do the time or serve for the crime. No real justice. Canada's broken. Share, share, share. Get it out there. Everything stated in the title, you can all Google it, you can all look it up, and you'll say, yeah, what happened to the death penalty? If that's ruled unconstitutional, we don't just revert back to 1985. We revert back to the 1867-1982 Consolidated Act and precedent law, where you find the death penalty is most definitely there for the life of Canada and its constitution. No mass murder back-to-backs. Then we go back to what is constitutional, the death penalty. Thanks, everybody. Get it out there. It's the truth. Don't let your politicians get away with literally children's murder, rape, and murder, the worst kind ever seen in the world. I know.